All right, so let me try to get the URL to the guys. What the guy? All right. So, okay. Yeah, good morning or good evening, rather. So, I will just wait as usual for like 5 minutes or something before we get started with today's talk. And you can still hear me clearly, Jamia.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, great. So let's just wait for everyone to join in, and then we'll just kick off.
Okay.
All right, guys. Good evening for those that are watching. Welcome to our very first or our second live session. Today we're going to be exploring Dart on the back end, and we would be starting by 8:10 just to give people time to join in. Yeah, so please do share the link. Code Farmer, welcome, so that other people can join in on the conversation or on the live stream. I will just share the link somewhere in the chat. Okay, let's see. I'll share the link somewhere in the chat. And all right. You're welcome, Code Farmer. And I just realized that you were not on the stage, Jamie.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Yeah, so please do share this link I dropped in the comments. Or yeah, do share this link I dropped in the comment and just have your friends joining. We're going to start by 8:10. Ojami, do we need to wait? What do you think? Should we just start? I think we have like some audience.
Yep, I'm ready when you are. Right. Maybe we
Okay.
can, yeah, or maybe we can start. Yeah.
All right. Let's do 1 or 2 more minutes. All right, guys. Let's just kickstart. I believe this live is always like available for anyone that wants to go back to start from the beginning. And welcome back to our live session. Right, this is the session. It's a pre-series where we come here to talk about everything Flutter and Dart related, and it's a pre-series for our upcoming Flutter Bytes conference. For those that don't know, Flutter Byte conference is this yearly conference that we do have for Flutter developers, and it's happening November, right? And we would like you to be there. But before we talk about Flutter Byte, we would let's just try exploring, or talking about the topic we are here for. So, a lot of developers, I do get a question, right? Can that be used for backend, which happens to be a very, very funny question, right? And it's a question that I get like way often. So, and a lot of the times I just used to like, what, refer people to go and use dartfrog. And as a Flutter developer, you are used to understanding that from the perspective of widgets, right? And which is kind of like very, very tricky because when you find out that everything in that is not like a widget or has little to nothing to do with a widget, right? It becomes very, very, difficult to grasp, and that's the reason why we felt like it's actually a very, very good idea for us to talk about, that on the server as its own topic. So we're going to be exploring from the fundamentals, right? We're going to be starting from the barest minimum based off like, the conversation I have or I had with Jeremy. And for those that are already familiar with how this whole thing goes, right? I Jeremy leads and I follow. So yeah, Jeremy leads and I follow, and then we see how far we can get this going. If you have like that friend of yours that is interested in a topic like this and wants is interested in learning about that on the server, this is a very, very good place to start from because we're not just going to come in here and start talking about hey, you know what, you can use that for to build on the server, you can use shelf. You're going to be starting from the barest minimum, right? The smallest part. And I am not going to talk about that. I'll be allowing Jamie to talk about that in a bit. So one of the reasons why we as Flutter developers we always look for like let's say you want to build like an application that needs backend. I know that every Flutter or most Flutter developer has like this go to like strategy where they use Firebase and then that is it. But what if you want to like build your own like core backend infrastructure and you don't want to go through like the whole stress and the whole process of having to like change language? And I think because for me I have like a very, very big problem with context switching, right? So if I'm building a backend in a certain language, I want to be able to build like the front end in that same language. That would allow you know easy flow and faster development time because you happen to be able to share models, you happen to be able to share services, you happen to be able to share a lot of things without you having like any problem, without you having problem with context switching. And I think that was one of the things that led me as a person to start exploring that on the back end. Sometimes I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I started with that frag, right? And I saw how very, very good it was, and I saw like the kind of problems we could solve, right? Because basically you are sharing almost the same thing. You're sharing your services with your backend, meaning you don't have to write like your service. You don't have to write a separate service for like a Flutter side, and then a separate service for your backend side. You can easily share your services. You can share your models. You can share anything data related. The only thing that separates your backend from your front end is just the UI, right? And that is like one of the like high opener for me, and that's the reason why a lot of the times whenever um, my go-to like backend implementation is always like I want to use that first, except for situations where I just want to like try something, right? So I've been using that, and I've used that in production, and to be honest, it has saved us a lot of time. It has saved us a lot of money, right? Because you don't need to like start hiring like a new you know backend developer. You could just like, hey, Flutter guys, right? You can write that code just like ship, or just write, or just try figure out a way to make your current code work on the back end and just deploy to a server. And yeah, so it doesn't look like I'm just the only one talking. I would like Jeremy to share like his own perspective on this topic before we dive right in.
Um, yeah, I think you've shared it all. Honestly, like I think I was talking to you. Was it sometime this week? And I said these days I actually move from the front end to the back end without even knowing it. Like I don't even know if like I'm already on the back end or on the front end. Yeah, I know, but it's that easy to switch basically, right? I think the reason why Flutter developers should actually explore that on the server, of course, is because you can use the same language on both the front end and back end, right? And you are using a better language. Well, JavaScript developers don't come for me, but that's my opinion.
On the
So
browser, JavaScript is a good language. On the server, that is a good language.
yeah, yeah. So, and also as a Flutter developer, you're able to expand what you know, right? Imagine just, well, the third point, we actually buttress this. And the third point basically is it's easier than you think. Like, as a Flutter engineer, it's easier to, or as a Dart engineer, let me use it that way, it's easier to switch to the backend, or it's easier to add the backend to your tool belt, basically. So, you can extend your expertise basically easily. So, well, that's the why, and I think Caesar already mentioned. He already mentioned all basically. I think we should just move on. Yeah.
Oh, all right then. Thank you very much for that very good like recap. So we today we already discussed, because we had like a small discussion. Initially I was like, okay, we could explore maybe we could explore shelf, but you mentioned that we should try to go very, very, very low level, right? Which is starting from the core of that high, right? Starting from the core of what makes a server. Do you want to like run everyone through like an intro around that, like what exactly is that high, and what what they should expect, and what are like the things in that IO that makes it like that makes it possible for us to implement backend as Flutter and Dart developers.
Yeah, yeah. So the that IO actually is my, well, it became my favorite core that library actually, because with that IO you can do a lot, right? I think most of the time when we get to use Flutter engineers, if you have done JSON.decode or JSON decode, or you've used the file system, you've used file, then you would have definitely like used or imported that IO. But it actually has more. So there is something that I will mention, which about 60% of Flutter engineers don't know, and that's that, well, I don't know if it's 50, this is an assumption. You can actually make HTTP requests with just that IO without using DO or using the HTTP package. You can literally do that like from scratch, right? So that's what you can use. You can use that IO for that. And since we are talking about that on the server, so the purest way to build that on the server is using that IO. So imagine that IO for making the request on the front end, that IO for spinning up the server, and also listening to your request basically on the server. So, and that's what most of, in fact, all of the packages that you would see are built on both Shelf, Dartfrog, Serena's, Angel, and the likes. So, I think we can get right to code, right? Because that's what people care for.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
will work from that IO to Shelf, then to that frog if we have time, right? And we'll keep moving. You get. So yeah.
Okay. So I'll just share the link to the for those that want to like have a look at the library. Wait, I'm sending the wrong link. Sorry. Oh, I was clicking on the wrong screen. So yeah. Escape. Sorry about that link. So this is a link to the that high library for those that want to have like a look at it. It contains everything high related. IO basically means input output, right? Yeah, so you read, you write, you update. So everything that has to do with inputting and outputting on that. This is where you're going to like find everything related to that. So if you want to take a look at like HTTP clients and servers, this is where to come to. And yeah, so should I start by creating a Dart project?
Oh
Or
yeah.
what? Okay.
Okay. So, and by the way, I don't know if it's my network, but you skip at times. So if we could get feedback from the audience just to know if that's coming from me or from you.
All right. Can anyone just confirm if
If you're able to hear Caesar and me properly,
or hear us clearly?
right? I guess they're able to hear us. So I think the way we could explore that IO is to, maybe we don't need to create a package at this point. We can just create a folder and create a dat
Okay.
file, right?
All right. So
Yeah.
let's set it to my desktop. Make their what should we call it? That's I guess it. Okay. Let's just make the dart io. So the dart io cursor. And yeah, but you can see my screen clearly.
All right. Okay, they can hear us both. All
Okay.
right. So one thing that we can do at this point is create a dat like app.dat or maybe server.dat file in there, right?
All right.
And so I want us to use the way I am looking at this is to use a walkthrough, right? Use something I've written in the past as a guide for this, so people can actually follow through later on. Or what do you
Oh,
think? So
yeah.
otherwise, type and type. I just want them to have something to reference later
Uh,
on.
um,
So
quickly drop the link for that.
okay, so there is this first let me drop this. That's is developer.jamie.ashnode.dev, right?
Mhm.
And slash copy this, copy. and paste. So I've pasted it to the chat, basically, right?
Okay.
And let me share with you as well, so you can present. Yeah.
All right.
So basically, the process we have to follow, we have to create an HTTP server using the data.io package or the library. Okay, right here. So I don't mind the title. That's for Node.js developer. This was supposed to be a comparison of how that is really similar to Node.js, but we can actually use it here. Basically, we can scroll. Yeah, we created the server.dat file. So scrolling down in step 2, you will see us importing the .io library. We created a server using the server HTTP server.bind, and we started listening to the server, basically. So this is like the simplest form of server, printing out hello world um, to your server.
Okay.
Congrat- Congratulations. I think we can end at this point.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so if you do that server.dat, you can visit this link.
Hello world. Um, but I still remember HTML. Anyways, hello world. My name is- I need to run this. Okay, I need to break, then run, and then reload. Okay,
Yeah,
something.
my entities are basically. So this is the simplest form, and you might think, oh, this is hello world. We actually do more, right, with servers. So yeah, if you scroll down a little bit, well, let's explain what's going on here first, basically, before we move on. So in this simple code, basically, what we are doing is we are starting a server. Remember that when you want to, connect to a server, you connect with a URL, right? Because we are currently working locally. So yeah, we are saying that connect to localhosts with port 3000, basically. And you would see it right here, like when we are running the server running on localhost address port 3000. And now we are saying server.listen, basically. In the listen, in the listen callback, we set the status code to OK. We set the content type to content.html, and we are writing hello world back to the server, back to the client, sorry, basically. So yeah, it's fair.
Continue. Continue.
Yeah, so I think we can move on to like a more elaborate example before we actually move on to shelf, because we will not be writing production applications with .io. The only production application you should write with .io is a package that you want to build to make life easier for people. If not, you will make life so hard for your developers.
All right.
Yeah.
So we are not looking at handling routes, right? We
Yeah,
are not looking at handling routes. Should we look at this, or we should just up straight to shelf?
yeah, I mean, we can look at a simple example. The third step, or this step, basically. So
Okay.
you might think, okay, how do you undo routing with maybe we don't need to copy the code, right? We can just
Yeah.
explain from there, right? Or we can copy the code too.
All right.
Or do you want to run what Claude gave you?
Oh, what Claude gave me? Yeah. So this is what Claude gave me. Um, nice. Yeah. A perfect. A perfect. Yeah.
Nice.
So routing dot that.
Yeah.
There. Then import that I.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically Yeah, just as before, but a little bit different. Now, before we write back a response to the client, we are checking if the path is like slash, which is the home route, and it is get, return what we returned earlier. However, if it is data and if it is post, then you should return data created or data received rather, and the status code should be 201, which is data created. And lastly, if um, it is a route that is not defined here, just return 404, basically. So this is something common. This is something we do basically from the front end. We just don't know how it is handled on the back end, right? So I think at this point we can move on to shelf after running this and testing this. Basically, you might need Postman for this or call
That's
to the data parts.
okay. Let me open. Anyways, this one will automatically send like a GET request. So your
Yeah,
browser sends
that's
a GET request. So for GET request, we're getting this. Welcome
yes.
um to Dart versus Node.js. So okay, what we can do is I have Postman. I'll just quickly work on it. All right. Okay. I'm not creating any request. Okay, let's just say post. Okay, slash data. Let's cancel. I don't know, for some reasons my Postman is still loading. But anyways, shall we can continue exploring while this guy is doing whatever the hell he's doing.
Yes. I think we can just explore. We can keep exploring. So, and yeah, I gave a little assignment there, but now I think we can, it is a good point to move on to shelf and to explain shelf. So, basically, shelf is a minimal that package for handling for handling requests. Basically, it's used for that on the server. It's similar to Express in a way, right? It's very very similar to Express, and we would see for people who have done Node before. So no, for people who don't know what Express is, Express is a package for Node for doing this same thing in Node, basically. So I think Shelf is something I can start recommending in production. So that's the point where you can start, using this tool to build in production, basically. So and yeah, I think we can actually go through Shelf on the backend. So
Oh,
yes, so we need to run a command to create a that package, basically, like that creates
okay, so
package.
are we creating a package or we're creating a Dart project?
And let's create a that package at this point. We need the pubspec.yml um for our shelf package and our shelf router package, basically. So yeah.
That's, that's great. Just give us that. CD cursor.
Okay.
All right, so we have like something that gives us pop spec.
Yeah.
So we have the project created.
All right. So, like any package, basically we need to import um, that shelf, right?
Yeah. Um,
Latest version of that shelf.
sure. We can just always do that provide, right? Let me close this. I don't need this for now. Okay, so you can, for those that don't know, you can always just do this. Sure. All right, so we have the latest version of Shelf. Yeah. So what should we start with?
Yeah, we can do an hello world in shelf. So actually, we would be working with shelf router in a moment, and that's what does the magic. That's what makes shelf looks uh, more like Express, basically. So, but for
Um,
now, we could spin up a server like this. Um, what we are doing here is we have an handler, right? Or we have a pipeline. So remember that I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned that Express is, or Shelf, sorry, is based on middlewares. And middlewares, you can think of middlewares as interceptors in Dio, if you have used Dio. So there are things, there are methods or functions that runs before or after a request or a response, basically. So, and we are going to get that like either on this call or on this live or in any subsequent live. But pipeline is just a way to define your handler, basically. It's a way to define your request. So, but I would like us to start with a very, very simple handler, right? How an handler looks conceptually. And basically, an handler is a function that accepts a request, exactly. It accepts a request and it returns a response. So this is how an handler looks like, basically. So yeah, I think we can do this. So an handler looks like this. And on the line 14, what we were doing earlier with that IO, HTTP server.bind, that's exactly what we are actually doing here in IO.serve. So we are doing IO.serve, we are passing the handler, we are using localhost, which is 127.0.0 like before, and we are using 3000 basically. And after we serve, we are printing. So just to show you that we are doing the same thing with that IO. Please, can we go into IO.serve? Just a moment, like go into the method declaration just to show. We'll come back real quick. Yeah,
can you
you
see?
would see we are either doing HTTP server.bind, which we did earlier, or HTTP server.bind secure. And if you go to the top of this shelf IO, you will see that IO imported somewhere, like, or maybe shelf. Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, we are still using, or shelf is based on that IO, and that frog is based on shelf. So at the end of the day, we are still going back to that IO. But then
Yeah.
I think we can move back. So this is how an handler looks like, right? A pipeline, however, is a way to construct multiple and like multiple middlewares than handler, right?
All right.
And like I said, middlewares are just things that we want to do in the process of a request. We might want to do it before the request or do it after the request, basically. Oh, do we want to log before the request or after the request, right? Do we want to um, check for authentication before the request or after the request? Do we want to provide an object in between requests, right? Dependencies. So that is what we actually use, middlewares for. And you will see it a lot when working on the back end. And you don't necessarily need to understand everything now, basically. Just look at it as interceptors. And as time goes on, you actually know when you need interceptors and how to use it. Right. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, at this point, I think we can um, we can import the shelf router package and
Okay.
do a I don't want us to do get post put delete like with the pure shelf. We would spend a lot of time here, right? So
Alright.
let's just do it with shelf router. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what the shelf router looks like. This is the URL for those that are interested. You can always like go come here to check out. So basically, what this does obviously is, it's kind of like a router that helps you route to like your route. But yeah, I'll just add that to the project where we don't need this. Move to trash. Move to trash. That Paul had. Sorry. That Paul had shelf router. All right. So I've added shelf router to our project.
All right. So it's will be interesting now. So now we are going to walk through an entire flow, right? Before we actually start, can we check your postman to see if it has loaded? Because we will test a lot with the postman. Or maybe we can use call in the
Ah,
terminal. Okay.
for some reason, this Postman seems to be working now.
Okay, great. So I think we can go back to testing now.
Okay.
Or to building, right? So if as a Flutter engineer, like doing this for about like 3 months, 6 months, or a year, you would have had a moment when you want to make some API calls like get, post, put, delete, right? Get for getting data, for fetching data, get one for getting a data, but one of those data, posts for creating a resource, right? Puts or patch. Well, I don't want to explain put and patch here. Basically, we actually use put as patch most of the time, but yeah, I will just assume
Some
put.
people use some people use post for put patch.
So patch, we use it to we it's what patch is, right? We use it to actually change one or more of the property of a resource, and then we have puts, which actually is used to update a resource entirely or puts the resource if it is not present, basically. So, and then we have delete, which is used to delete the resource. So we are going to go through the entire flow, how to create a get, exactly what your backend developers gives, like what they give you to work with. So we are going to do a get, post, puts, um, posts, patch, and delete, right? So we are going to do those. So I think to actually work with this, we might want to generate or maybe build an in-memory store for this, basically. So
Okay.
we can maintain a map of to do or notes or anything just to simulate a proper DB.
No worries. Store.
Or we can use Globe KV. Yeah,
Uh, all right. So just basically variables that simulate, right?
yeah.
Okay. So map string dynamic dynamic um storehouse. I'm sorry for my bad naming. Then we can just set like a default value to this, and then we have variables that update. Um, no, it's not private method. Do we need all of this, or we could just always like?
Let's create it like this. I mean, this particular project is a project that we could extend, like we could keep building on.
All
So we
right.
can our audience, know when we switch this to a proper DB at some point, maybe MongoDB or Globe.dev, right? Which we released today, by the way. Yeah, so We would be touching all of those in the future. But for now, let's use an in-memory store.
Dynamic data value. You know what? So I'm not dragging everyone's time. I'll just see if this guy can updated value and okay. So I think we're good. Uh, Let me just walk you guys through what's going on. So this is kind of like a store, a local storage where we want to be able to like manage data, right? So we want to be able to set data, we want to be able to get data, we want to be able to we want to be able to get keys. We want to be, but currently the data structure we definitely are using is just a map, string dynamic. I call this storehouse. Sorry for the naming, but yeah, basically what this does is it's going to help us like manage every data we're going to be using in this shelf project. And yeah, so back to this place.
All right. So now we can actually start, right? So we are going to put everything right here in this project. So can we create a router object?
A
We
router.
don't. Well, we don't need to delete this. We can just delete the handler and replace it with the router.
Okay.
I think the server definition will still be the same. So we create a router. The router is what it does the magic. So um, what is the analogy I can use for the router? Well, this router is not Go router, and it is not the router in the front end, right? So the
Oh,
router the router in the front end or in the client, it actually listen, it waits for a location, a link, and it uses that link to direct you to a location in your application, to a screen. You give me slash, I take you to home. You give me slash chat, I take you to the chat view, right? The router here, the job of the router here is to also listen, but what it does is that it takes you to a method rather. So it takes you when you call get the verb and the verb and then the parts. It takes you to a method that we undo the parts. We actually call those methods handlers, right? Route handlers, basically. So we are going to walk through it right now. So can we undo the gets by calling router.get, basically?
okay. So router dot get.
Yeah. So slash. Let's just do hello world. Oh, hello world is nice to do. So this accepts a request and it should return a response.
Response dot okay. Uh, for the sorry for the hello. Okay, so
Yeah, you should
yeah,
accept a request as well
you should accept a request as
in
well.
the method input, basically.
Okay, so from here,
Yeah, requests.
requests. So what are we using the request for?
I mean, we can print anything, but not to mislead the audience. The method, so the request can be used to extract a body, it can be used to extract a query parameter or anything. But here we are simply just, printing hello world, so we don't necessarily need to use the request yet. You will see the usage of the request when we want to do posts, by the way. So looking at this code and looking at the code for that IO, you would already see the reason why we can't use that IO in production, basically. So you have a lot of if and else statements or switch case statements. You will you
You're
will spend
writing
a lot.
someone else from scratch, reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, so this is much more easier to read and maintain, basically. So do you want us to print hello world, or we can proceed to just doing our um building our app, basically our in-memory app?
I don't know if people want to. Let's just proceed with building our in-memory app.
All right.
Okay.
So let's our get now should return our in our data, right? In the in-memory store.
So, so as data, we are like saying we're saying in supposed to. Okay, let me see if I can put it final in-memory store equals to in-memory store, and then in-memory store dot does this return everything. I need to get all. So store out dot values.
Our in-memory store should have been a list of map, I think, for
Yeah.
things
I
to much better. Do you want to
right
use? Yeah.
memory store list of map string. Then
Okay. Let's check the implementation. Get, okay. Get works. Delete works. Mhm.
okay.
Find
So
one. This seems like it works. Let's just try. Let's trust it. Okay. So all, that's all, right?
yeah, that's all. So one
Okay.
user.
Can we spin up our server and test all for now? It won't return anything because we need to um, start our server. The server is not running. We need line 13. Yes. And we need to
Hi.
pass in router, not handler.
We need to pass in the router here.
Yeah.
That is import.
Shelf IO. That's IO. Yes. Router.call. But router is also fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Port 3000. So let's try to refresh. Server is running on port 3000. Let me just take it to Postman or let's see.
Can you use localhost? Let's
Oh,
see.
okay, that's fair. Could just use local host.
Well, though that's localhost. Though. I
Local.
wonder why the it's not working. Internal server error. So can we check what's going on, right? So, uh, yes, we missed something. So remember, I actually like that as this happened. You know, when you are using HTTP package in Flutter,
Yeah.
right, and you get data back from the backend, you always have to decode, right? JSON decode. So the reason why you are decoding is that we actually send data to and fro the backend through like to the client and from the backend in a JSON format. And JSON format is a string basically. So we actually have to encode data before sending it to you, and then you decode the data when you get it, basically. So encode is not, encrypting your data or doing anything. Encode is just converting your map or your JavaScript object or your Dart object, is converting it to a string that can be passed over to the client, and the client will decode it back, and they would be able to access it. I think this should work now. Back to our client. Yeah. So we have our data. So can we just use localhost and yeah as well? All right. So we have our data. So one more thing we have to do, as you can see, this is being displayed as raw by default. To allow this to come as JSON by default, we need to add an header to our response, basically. So we need to go into our backend, and in the response.ok, we have another property called header, which is a named property. So we can add content type. What's it called again?
The content type,
What type? Application JSON.
I hope I'm correct, but this looks. Am I sure? Come in, let me search. I'm not sure of like the um efforts.
The
Application JSON, application JSON.
Yeah,
Okay, so I needed to be sure of like if I'm using lowercase or uppercase. So this is it. So content type is correct. Okay, so send. Yeah, so
yeah. So by default, this comes as JSON. So can we undo the post, put, and delete?
okay.
Just all at once. Yeah.
Dot post um request, and then so what happens here is we call in memory store dot add, and then we call it in memory store dot add, then we can add like an item. So what item are we even adding?
Yes.
Because
So the item we are adding is actually coming from the request body.
the
Remember
request body.
how I said that we actually make use of the requests to access data. So the request have a property called, like, it's a method, sorry,
Okay.
body. Can we, or read as string, sorry, read as string. Yeah, sorry for the,
Okay.
yes,
So
this is an async method. You have to async and await. Yeah. So another thing now is that, when you are sending from the client, you are also encoding. At this point, you have to decode the content of item. So JSON body, now object body, exactly, JSON decode.
okay. So
Yes, and the body is a map, basically, if you check. So you can add that straight into in-memory store.
okay, let's do JSON decode. Yeah, for some reason JSON decode always return like dynamic, but we can just do map string dynamic dot from just in the code body, and then we can just add that to in memory store, and
Yeah.
then return response dot okay, and just return this. Is that good enough?
Yes, that was great. One thing that we actually do, just to give more context, we don't just convert the body and we add and we return right away like this. So one thing you should know is that when you accept anything from the client, you have to validate first, right? So you validate before adding to the database, and the database itself will have its own constraints basically. So you are first validating here, and then the database also will check the data. Is it what I'm expecting? If it is not, I won't allow this, get added basically. So, but because of simplicity, we are going to keep those out of this, right, and focus on the happy part. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
for post request, what we want to return is the item that was just added basically. So we can
You
just
don't
return yes,
okay. So all right. Just return
yeah,
body.
yes. So now put, and yes, before we move on to put, I think we should add a an actual part to this, maybe users or to do's. So yeah, to do or
Okay.
use
So
or like whatever we are saving, right? So to
yeah.
do's, yeah, to do's to post as well. Yeah, I think we can copy this and modify the logic for puts. Yeah, now
So
for puts we need to change the um yes, updates. Yeah. We need to change this a little bit. And you might think, what do we want to change? So, for puts, just as you have seen, you see that it's actually asking us for an index. I think our in-memory store should have asked us for an ID. Maybe we should have written this ourselves.
it's
We
lazy.
should have this. So for updates, you need an ID, right? And with that ID, you want to update the data, right? We want to update the data. So inputs, we want to get it, our route will not be to dos anymore. It will be to do slash the ID, right? That we want to update. So um, the way we represent that is with um, less than, then greater than.
So
So
less than greater than, and then
yes,
Heidi.
ID, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So yeah, this is going to come in from where? It's going to come in from like the request parameters, right?
Which? Oh
No,
yes,
yeah, when you're passing the ID, because the
yeah.
ID be like a string.
When you
Oh yeah.
pass the ID like this, then the method will accept another parameter beside requests. You can just put um, string ID. So it's now our method will accept two inputs, both the request and the parameter. Yes,
String
that's
ID.
actually yes.
Okay. So int dot parse ID.
Yeah, or maybe we can. Okay, let's use it that way. And then let's undo deletes. I think put won't work because that's not the actual index, right? Or maybe we can simulate it since
Yeah,
we
with
know
similar.
where. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, with similar
Okay, now delete.
request. Same. And then delete. And then we just need the body. Do we need this?
Yeah,
The
we
way
don't. We usually, so for get all, we return all the objects. For post, we return the object we just posted. For put, we return the object we just deleted and we just updated. Sorry. And for delete, we usually return the ID basically of the item deleted. So, but it's your backend. You are free to return anything. So yeah.
highly, highly,
Okay,
highly start.
moment of truth. I think we can test now.
Okay. It's a slash to do's. So let's post to do's and say hey, um title, then wash the car, the car description. So yes, to wash the car. And yeah, we can post this. All right.
Yeah.
As well.
So we get the data. Now is I think we are still returning or we are still returning the lists because this is coming as a list. Or maybe we have not restarted the server since we implemented
It's not
this.
coming as a list. This is
Is it not? Is it an object? Okay, okay, okay. I see. Okay. So
yeah,
now can we get all to this? Right.
yeah,
Now we should have all to dos.
yeah. All to this.
All to dos should come as a list, isn't it? Okay, I see now. Oh, it's in a data of a list. It's confusing because of the outer brackets,
Yeah,
basically. Like, you know,
yes.
like, okay, so now we can update. We know that this index is 0, so let's attempt to update. Wash the car um, at ID 0, basically. Put right.
So let me just go to post.
Yeah.
Uh, so put size 0 and then body. Oh, it's a query parameters. Anyways,
Hmm? I think this should be
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it's my
yeah.
wash the car, wash the gen, and then we can set this moment of truth. Okay,
Yes, that really works as we want it. And yes, and now we can delete basically, and we shouldn't be able to see this item again.
yeah, so delete and then send. Okay, so when we
Uh,
come back to this guy
to
to
to get
those,
basically, yes, we see empty. So we just created the CRUD basically. I mean,
that's
uh,
the foundation of backend.
yes. Look at this. How many lines of code, by the way? Right. We have
48.
48 lines or 49. And well, not sugarcoat anything. We will need like to make backend supported and to, add validations and things like that. This
Yeah,
particular to do endpoints or list of endpoints should actually be able to support. You should be able to support your to do with like 500 lines of code. Looking at what we have right now, and that 500 lines of code is what makes a lot of Flutter engineers and backend engineers, quarrel and throw blows, at work, right? So what you can actually learn and do yourself, right? So
yeah,
and this knowledge is something that could even help you understand things better, right? You tend to understand what the backend engineer is doing, and not him telling you that, oh, this is not ready because they have to do this and do that and do that, right? So yeah, um, I see a lot
So
of value in this, and I think a lot of us should start exploring at least from here.
yeah,
Yeah,
basically, so this is like at least this is the foundation. I believe like with this like life with because I think this is nine already. Okay, yeah. This life, I feel like you should have like the foundational basis for you to be able to go and start your own backend. And yeah, of course you can.
yeah,
I'll allow for that in a bit, right? So you can start your own foundational backend. You can play with some of your Dart models and bring them in here and play around. You can also, instead of this in-memory store, you can convert it to use, say, something like MongoDB, say something like Postgres or something, and then you still have the same method because basically what's happening here is
Globe, Globe DB, I will cut it there.
Globe.dev. I've not explored Globe.dev yet, but I'm going to do that maybe later this evening or tomorrow. But yes,
Yeah,
Globe.dev, you can do that also. You can, and it's going to be way more easier, right? Because Globe is building for basically Dart developers, and the priority is making your life as easy as possible as a Dart developer. So yes, cool, Daniel. You have a question, and for those that have like a question, please drop it in like the comment. I have that on my screen so I can see that. Right. Yeah. So
as
we
we are, oh,
okay.
sorry, as we are
Yeah.
waiting for questions, something I want to mention about Globe DB, since you mentioned that you have not tried it, is
Mhm.
that so GlobeDB, if you have used Drift before, like or SQLite, basically, if you have used that before, or more or Flow, right, or SQLF Lite,
Yeah.
then you can start using GlobeDB. So you know what we try to do is that Flutter, just as we have explained now about how you don't need to learn any other language to go to the backend. That's what we wanted to do with GlobeDB as well. Not having to learn something new or a new syntax to interact with your database, right? Globe.dev or docs.globe.dev, basically. Yeah. So that's what we wanted to do, and that was why we created GlobeDB. So I believe this is the easiest way to into to start using that backend. This is not, well, I might be biased, but I still think it's the easiest way, basically, because you build locally, and the moment you ship, you don't need to change anything, basically, and you are good. So yeah, we might touch it in some of our later sections, right? But
Yeah. So decode Daniel, I'm waiting for your question, please. You can just like drop the question. Yeah. So I dropped the link to Globe DB. You guys that want to check it out, please do well to check it out. And there's something I forgot to mention. So tickets for Flutter Bytes, they are already out, right? I should have mentioned that from the beginning. So for those that are interested in getting a ticket to come for like the Flutter Byte conference, this is your early bird chance, right? So you let me share the link. Give me a moment. So you go to the link and then you purchase your ticket and then yeah. Is there a way not to repeat content? Gami, you can take that question. Did you see the
okay,
question? Okay, let me show it on the.
looks similar to Express, although one concern is there a way not to repeat content application? I think something was mentioned, something. Yeah, I don't know if that would work here. Yes, this that would actually work. So with middlewares, basically what you can do is that you can change. So you can run things before request and run things after request, or the same thing for response, right? Another thing you can actually do is to change the request itself. So a middlewares are like, for middlewares that actually run before your request, right? You can actually change what is coming into that, and like middleware runs, your handler runs, which is get or post or put or delete, right? I am changing the request, the middleware rather. I am changing the request via the middleware to include that header. So when I get to get or post or put delete, I already have my application.json basically. So one thing you might have to do is that this middleware will be app wide. It will be a middleware that covers that is run before every of your routes in your app, basically. And the way to achieve that is to use uh, that pipeline, basically. So we are going to get to pipeline. We will keep continuing on this as
Yeah.
we basically. So and one other way that I use basically is that because for me personally, I think the response that actually comes with shelf is a little bit lacking. Well, it has response dot okay dot found dot all of those stuff, but why will I have to put application dot json every single time? It's something I also have problem with. So what I actually do is to create a wrapper. So I create a wrapper around the response that shelf provides. The wrapper will actually already provide the application JSON, and wrapper also helps me with JSON encode. Right, that's another thing that I don't like because I have had a couple of times that I forgot JSON decode and things just break. Right, I have to run the project before I know that I have not included JSON encode or JSON, decode. So I think wrappers could work, right, and middlewares would definitely also work, basically. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. The code, Daniel. Let's know if that answers the question. So there is this other question that asks, do we know if there are any known server-side applications or product built with any that server-side library, e.g. shelf? Um, so I would have had one, like, because I know that CodePad was built entirely with dartfrog, but again, right, it's expensive to run, so uh, yeah, out of that one. But yeah, I also shared a link to like an open source project I worked on 2 years ago, and you can check that out if you're trying to look at a way to use like that frog in maybe production application or something. I know I'm still going to write around something like that, but yeah, that is for that frog. But Jamie might want to also answer from a different perspective.
Yeah. Actually, your question, I don't know if we are talking about production. Well,
Yeah.
I want to actually answer, like, I want to approach it from that point, because you might um be interested in, do we know any server side application built with any that server library in production? Because this question to answer, I will just tell you a lot. Like in the past few months, I've built a lot and shipped,
Show
but
bed is
yeah, so I've shipped a lot. But
show
if
bed
we talk
is production.
Yeah, but if we talk about, yes, Shorebird actually mentioned, if we are talking about companies that actually use this in production, which I think is what you're asking, then there are also a couple of them basically. So and most of them actually announced on the Flutter Dev channel, on Twitter or on X rather. When I get that link, I maybe we can add it here, or I will add it in my article basically. So there's an article I wrote, which that on the server exploring full stack potential. I actually added some companies there, and I intend to keep adding more lists to that basically. So I think, can we share the article, Caesar, so they can see Medium, yeah, Medium.
Medium. Did you share with me?
I don't think I've shared this with you. You can just search for at developer Jamie on
Okay.
medium.com developer Jamie. So, but then there are a couple of them as well. Going through our community in Global as well, I actually saw a couple of ideas that people built. Even Someone mentioned that there is a turnstile at a train station that is talking to a Globe API basically, or a Dart API to validate tickets, right? How cool is that? So I think a lot of companies are using this in production. They are not just shouting about it, and that's
So,
what my own goal is. I want to actually shout about it so people know that they can actually use that on the server in production as other people are using it as well. Yeah. Okay.
all right.
Yes. Server unlocking true full stack potential. So when you go to the examples, you are going to see some of the companies I listed there. So, and I intend to add more, as said. So you can always reference that for a list of companies, yeah, that uses Globe on the server. And I'm building a new product as well, which will showcase that exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
No, not yet. Just a little bit down. Yes. Well, pub.dev first. I even forgot. The entire pub.dev is is well that for every Flutter engineers we must have used pub.dev. So that was built with that on the server. And I've not seen pub.dev broken before, like in my entire career. Maybe I was sick when it was
That's
broken. Yeah, but I've never seen it broken. So yeah. I hope that answers your question. But as said, we'll keep, sharing more.
So this is something we're going to be doing for like a very long time, hopefully, right? Because my to an extent, I kind of like enjoy like the conversation, right? Because you get to share things you've been working on and everything. And so I believe this is kind of like the or closer to the end of the whole stream because the stream is just meant to last for like 1 hour. Hopefully, what you guys should expect in the next that on the server like live stream is going to be maybe playing with dartfrog, right? Talking about different kind of routing. You know the way we used like just a string route system. We are going to move from that basic routing system to a file-based routing system, which is going to show you another perspective to how backend works, right? So we just had to like start with this foundation so as to like ease you into what backend with that is all about and what backend fundamentally is and how to provide and everything. And we should also talk about deployment, right? Deploying to Globe, right? Making your life easier with, you know, Globe deploy. Because I'll tell you for a fact, right? Anytime I'm doing like this project, and all I just need to do is I just need to Globe deploy and my project is live, and I don't need to write maybe Docker configuration or anything. Just deploy and you're fine. And I think it's something that you as developers should look into. That developers specifically, it's very very helpful. Yeah. So I don't know if Jeremy wants to add something on his own hand.
Uh, I actually don't have more to add. I think you mentioned all. Right. So, yeah.
All right. So since there are no more questions, right, this live can be reaccessed. So meaning you can share with your friends, and yeah, that is the end of the live from my own hand. I basically don't have anything more to add. So please go and check for the Flutter Bytes ticket, buy your ticket. We are expecting you at the next Flutter Bytes conference, and yeah, that will be all from my hand. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.